The alien warrior closed his eyes and waited for death. The battlefield around him was silent now, except for the wind moving through broken metal and burned structures. His armor was cracked, his weapon was gone, and his strength was fading. In every war he had ever fought, this moment meant the same thing. Capture meant execution, especially when the captors were human. But instead of a blaster shot, he smelled food. Warm, rich, spiced. The alien's long ears twitched in confusion. Slowly, painfully, he opened one eye. A human was kneeling a few meters away, and the human was holding a tray. Not a weapon. A tray of food. The alien warrior stared, certain that his damaged mind was creating strange illusions before death. But the smell was real. Steam rose gently from a metal bowl filled with thick stew. The human smiled. "Good," the human said calmly. "You're awake. I was starting to think you aliens hibernate when you get dramatic." The alien blinked slowly. His species was trained for war from childhood. They were feared across multiple star systems. Entire colonies had surrendered just from seeing their fleet appear in orbit. And yet this human, this fragile creature, was sitting beside him with soup. "You are my captor," the alien rasped. The human tilted his head. "Technically, maybe. But honestly, I prefer the title of battlefield medic with extremely limited equipment and questionable cooking skills." The alien stared in disbelief. "You should kill me," he said quietly. The human shrugged. "Maybe later," he said. "Right now you look like someone who hasn't eaten in about 3 days." The alien's ears twitched again. Humans were supposed to be unpredictable. But this was something else entirely. The human carefully placed the tray on a flat piece of broken metal between them. "My name is Elias Carter," the human said casually. "Engineer. Not a soldier." The alien did not respond immediately. His breathing was still uneven, and every movement sent pain through his body. Finally he spoke. "Commander Varric of the Tarsin Dominion." Elias nodded. "Well, Commander Varric, welcome to the worst vacation resort in the outer colonies." He gestured at the ruined mining base around them. "Please ignore the destroyed buildings. The customer service here is terrible." The alien stared at him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, one corner of his mouth moved slightly, a tiny sign of amusement. Elias noticed immediately. "Oh good," the human said. "You do understand humor. That makes this much easier." Varric looked down at the steaming bowl again. "You feed your enemy?" he asked. Elias leaned back against a piece of wreckage. "Humans have a strange habit," he said. "We like fixing things." Varric frowned. "You cannot fix war." "No," Elias agreed. "But sometimes you can fix the people who survived it." The alien considered this. His species believed mercy was weakness. In every battle doctrine, compassion toward an enemy was considered dangerous. But the smell of the stew was impossible to ignore. Slowly, cautiously, Varric reached forward. His clawed hand picked up the spoon. The first bite was awkward. The alien anatomy was not designed for human utensils. Half the stew spilled down his armor. Elias laughed. "Not bad for your first attempt," he said. "Try tilting the spoon slightly." Varric glared at him. "You find this amusing?" "A little," Elias admitted. Then he pointed. "Angle it like this. Gravity helps." Varric tried again. This time the stew reached his mouth. Warmth spread through his chest immediately. The flavor was strange but satisfying. Protein. Minerals. Something spicy. Something comforting. Varric froze. He had eaten battlefield rations for most of his life. Nothing had ever tasted like this. Elias watched quietly. "Well?" he asked. Varric looked at him. "This is effective." Elias laughed. "That is the most alien compliment I've ever received." For a few minutes, they sat in silence. The wind howled across the destroyed colony. Broken drones sparked occasionally in the distance. But inside the small circle of Elias's portable shield generator, there was calm. Varek finished the bowl slowly. His strength was returning. His mind was clearer now. Finally he asked the question that had been growing in his thoughts. Why are you here alone? Elias shrugged. Because humans are very good at surviving terrible plans. He pointed toward a large piece of equipment nearby. It was a strange machine built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering parts. I've been working on something, Elias said. Varek's eyes narrowed. What is it? Elias smiled. A translator beacon. Varek's ears twitched. You already speak my language. Barely, Elias said. Your grammar is a nightmare. He tapped the machine. But this will broadcast something better. What? Varek asked. Elias looked out toward the horizon where distant alien ships were moving in orbit. Then he spoke quietly. A message. Varek's eyes sharpened. A surrender request. Elias shook his head. No. The human's smile grew wider. A conversation. Varek stared at him. You believe the Tarsin Dominion will negotiate with humans? Elias shrugged again. I believe humans are extremely annoying. He stood up and stretched. And eventually even galactic empires get tired of fighting annoying people. For the first time since the battle, Commander Varek laughed. It was a deep, rough sound. You humans are insane. Elias grinned. Probably. Then he looked down at the empty bowl. But we're also the only species in the galaxy that feeds its enemies. Varek slowly stood to his feet. His injuries still hurt, but he could stand. And something strange was happening in his mind. For the first time in his life, he was curious about humans. Far above the planet, Tarsin warships continued scanning the battlefield. They believed their commander was dead. They had no idea. He was eating soup with the enemy. And that one small human engineer was about to do something that would confuse the entire galaxy. The alien warships in orbit were preparing for the next phase of the invasion. From space, the mining colony looked completely destroyed. Smoke still drifted from broken reactors, and the defense grid had long since gone silent. According to the Dominion Fleet Command, the battle had been 1 hour ago. Only one detail remained unclear. Commander Varek had not reported back. Inside the command vessel Iron Talon, several alien officers studied the battlefield data with growing concern. Commander Varek's life signal disappeared during the final engagement, one officer said. Another officer tilted his head. That is unlikely. Varek was not just a warrior. He was one of the Dominion's most respected commanders. If he had died, the battle logs should have shown it clearly. But the battlefield sensors had detected something strange. A localized energy field. Small. Improvised. Human. Back on the ruined colony, Varek stood beside Elias Carter, watching the strange machine the human had been assembling. The device looked like it had been built from scrap metal, broken drone parts, and pieces of alien equipment. Varek studied it carefully. You believe this machine will communicate with the Dominion fleet? Elias tightened a cable and wiped grease from his hands. Oh, it will definitely communicate, he said. But communication and understanding are two very different things. Varek crossed his arms. You speak in riddles. Elias smiled. That's because humans rarely win wars with strength. He tapped the side of the machine. We win them with ideas. The alien warrior watched quietly as the human activated the device. Soft lights flickered across the surface of the machine. A low hum filled the air. Then a signal shot into the sky. In orbit, alarms suddenly triggered across multiple Dominion ships. Unknown transmission detected, one officer shouted. Origin point confirmed. Surface of the colony. Another officer leaned over the console. It is broadcasting on Dominion command frequencies. The bridge fell silent. That frequency was restricted. Only high-ranking Dominion commanders were allowed to use it. Which meant there were only two possibilities. Either Commander Varek was alive, or the humans had done something impossible. Back on the planet, the beacon continued transmitting. Varek looked at the device. "What message are you sending?" Elias leaned back against a broken support beam. "The truth." The alien warrior narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Elias nodded toward the sky. "I'm telling them you're alive." Varek froze. "You would reveal that to my fleet?" Elias shrugged. "Of course. That gives them tactical advantage," Varek said. "Maybe," Elias replied. "But it also creates curiosity." Varek's ears twitched. "Curiosity?" Elias smiled. "Curiosity is the most powerful force in the universe." The beacon continued transmitting. Inside the Dominion command ship, the message was finally decoded. A voice filled the bridge. It was Commander Varek. Every officer immediately stood. But something about the recording felt strange. "Dominion fleet," the voice said calmly. "I am alive." The bridge erupted with whispers. The signal continued. "I am currently in the custody of a human." More confusion. Then the voice said something no Dominion commander had ever said before. "He saved my life." Silence filled the bridge. The officers stared at one another in disbelief. "Impossible," one whispered. The recording continued. "I advise the fleet not to fire on this colony." Another officer slammed his hand on the console. "This is deception." But the final sentence of the message stopped everyone cold. "If you destroy this location, you will destroy the only human capable of ending this war." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Back on the surface, Varek slowly turned toward Elias. "You forged my voice." Elias gave a small shrug. "Technically, I sampled it. That is highly illegal in Dominion law." Elias laughed. "Oh good. Then it's working." Varek stared at him. "You are manipulating my fleet." "Of course," Elias said. Varek stepped closer. "Why?" Elias looked up at the sky again. "Because if they believe I can end the war, they will want to talk." Varek was silent for a long moment. "You risk everything on negotiation." Elias nodded. "Humans always do." The alien commander studied him carefully. "You are not afraid." Elias laughed quietly. "Oh, I'm terrified." Then he pointed toward the stars. "But fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means think harder." Above them, the Dominion fleet had stopped its attack formation. Instead of preparing orbital bombardment, the ships were repositioning, watching, waiting. Inside the flagship, the Dominion admiral leaned forward slowly. "Prepare a shuttle," he said. The officers looked at him in shock. "Admiral, the human could be lying." "Perhaps," the admiral replied calmly. "But if he is telling the truth." He looked toward the colony below. "Then the most dangerous being in this war is not their soldiers. It is their ideas." Back on the surface, Varek suddenly sensed something. He looked up. A small shuttle was descending through the atmosphere. Elias followed his gaze. "Well," the human said, "that was faster than I expected." Varek turned to him. "You may have just changed the course of this war." Elias smiled. "That's the plan." Then he picked up another container of stew. "Also, if negotiations go badly." He handed the bowl to Varek. "At least we won't be hungry." Varek looked at the bowl. Then he looked at the strange human engineer. For the first time in his long career as a warrior, Commander Varek realized something important. Humans did not fight wars the way other species did. They fought with humor, with curiosity, with impossible ideas, and sometimes, with soup. As the Dominion shuttle slowly landed in the ruins of the colony, Varek felt something unfamiliar rising inside him. Respect. Because the human beside him had just done something no warrior in the galaxy had ever attempted. He had challenged an entire alien empire. With a conversation. And somehow, it was working. The Dominion shuttle descended slowly through the smoky sky of the ruined colony. Its engines hummed with controlled power, scattering dust and loose metal across the broken landing field. For the alien fleet above, this moment was extremely dangerous. Dominion commanders never walked into uncertain situations, especially not negotiations with an enemy species. But something about the human transmission had disturbed the logic of the Dominion War Council. The message had not sounded like a threat. It had not sounded like surrender either. It had sounded like confidence. And confidence from a nearly defeated species was unusual. The shuttle finally landed with a heavy metallic thud. Elias Carter stood calmly beside his strange machine while Commander Varric watched silently. His long ears twitched as the shuttle door slowly opened. A tall alien stepped out. The Dominion Admiral. His armor was polished silver, decorated with command markings that showed decades of victory. His presence alone would normally make entire colonies surrender without a fight. But this time, the only people waiting for him were one wounded commander, and one human engineer holding a cup of tea. The Admiral stared at the human. "You are Elias Carter," the Admiral said. Elias lifted the cup slightly. "That's me," he replied. "Welcome to our colony." The Admiral looked around at the destroyed buildings. "You call this a colony?" Elias shrugged. "Temporary remodeling." Commander Varric stepped forward. "My Admiral," he said respectfully. The Admiral studied him carefully. "You are alive." "Yes." The Admiral's eyes moved toward Elias again. "This human saved you." Varric hesitated. Then he nodded. "Yes." The Admiral turned back to Elias. "Why?" Elias took a sip of his tea before answering. "Because dead enemies don't become friends." The Admiral narrowed his eyes. "You believe the Dominion seeks friendship with humans?" Elias smiled slightly. "No. I believe the Dominion seeks victory." The Admiral did not respond. Elias continued calmly. "And I also believe the Dominion understands mathematics." That caught the Admiral's attention. "Explain." Elias gestured toward the stars above. "You have over 200 warships in orbit." The Admiral nodded. "Yes." "You will destroy this colony easily." "Yes." "You will win this battle." The Admiral folded his arms. "Obviously." Elias set his cup down. "But humans have one advantage the Dominion does not understand." The Admiral waited. Elias looked directly at him. "We are very difficult to eliminate." The Admiral tilted his head slightly. "That is not unique. Many species claimed resilience." But Elias shook his head. "No, you misunderstand." He pointed toward the damaged beacon machine. "That signal I sent earlier." The Admiral's eyes sharpened. "Yes." Elias smiled. "It was not only sent to your fleet." The Admiral went still. "Where else?" Elias answered calmly. "Every human colony within 3,000 light-years." Commander Varric's ears shot upward. The Admiral's voice became colder. "You are bluffing." Elias shook his head. "No." Then he tapped the machine. That signal carried one simple message. The Admiral waited. Elias spoke quietly. "Humans have made first contact with the Dominion." The alien officers behind the Admiral shifted uneasily. Elias continued. "And humans are very excited about meeting new neighbors." Commander Varric suddenly understood. His eyes widened. "Admiral," he said slowly. "What?" Varric looked toward the human. "Humans multiply faster than most species." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Yes." Varric continued. "And they spread quickly." "Yes." "And they are extremely curious." The Admiral turned back to Elias. "What have you done?" Elias smiled in the calm, slightly mischievous way humans often did when they knew something others did not. "I started a conversation." The Admiral's voice dropped. Explain clearly. Elias pointed toward the sky. Within the next few days, hundreds of human exploration ships will begin searching for your territory. The Admiral felt something unfamiliar. Concern. Elias continued speaking. They will not come as soldiers. They will come as scientists. He lifted his cup again. Engineers. He pointed to himself. Diplomats. And chefs. Commander Varric slowly began to laugh. The Admiral turned sharply toward him. You find this amusing? Varric tried to control his voice. My Admiral, the human is correct. The Admiral glared. How? Varric looked at Elias. Because humans do not stop when they encounter something new. Elias nodded. That's the problem with invading us. The Admiral looked back at him. You claim humans cannot be conquered. Elias shook his head. Oh no, humans lose battles all the time. He gestured around the destroyed colony. Today is a great example. The Admiral remained silent. Elias leaned slightly closer. But every time someone fights us. He smiled. We become interested. The wind blew across the ruined colony. For a moment no one spoke. Then Elias said the sentence that would later appear in thousands of galactic history records. You came here to conquer humans. He pointed toward the stars again. But now every human in this region knows your name. The Admiral slowly realized the truth. Humans were explorers, inventors, dreamers. If they became curious about the Dominion, they would never stop visiting, studying, talking, trading, learning, expanding. War with humans would not end in victory. It would end in endless contact, endless interaction, endless humanity. Commander Varric stepped forward quietly. My Admiral, the human weapon is not technology. The Admiral asked slowly. What is it? Varric looked toward Elias Carter. Persistence. Elias grinned. We also call it stubbornness. The Admiral stared at the human for a long moment. Then he gave a quiet order to the shuttle pilot. Recall the fleet. Commander Varric's ears twitched in surprise. My Admiral. The Admiral looked toward the human one last time. The Dominion does not fear humans. He paused. But neither will we provoke a species that turns war into curiosity. Elias picked up the stew pot beside him. Before you leave. The Admiral stopped. Yes. Elias held up a bowl. Would you like to try the soup? For a moment the powerful Dominion Admiral simply stared at the human. Then, slowly, he laughed. And somewhere above the ruined colony, 200 warships began turning away from battle. Because on that day, the galaxy learned something important about humanity. You could defeat humans in a battle. You could destroy their cities. You could even invade their worlds. But if humans became curious about you, then eventually, you would become their friend, or their neighbor, or their trading partner. Because the most powerful weapon humanity ever created was not a fleet, not a bomb, not an army. It was something far stranger. A simple human habit. Offering food. And starting a conversation.